as the Sixers got drubbed by Boston in Game 7. Stephen A. Smith had this to say about James Harden yesterday.
James Harden was so awful, so bad, he should actually shave his beard so he could hide his identity. That's how bad he was. I mean, it was really, really bad. I say that in all seriousness. I'm not joking. I worked in Philadelphia for 17 years. It was that bad. I'm telling you right now, it would be difficult for him to walk the streets. You don't do what you saw him do on Sunday afternoon in a Game 7.
So, a million different angles to go here, including I want to get to Woj in a moment on the realities involved. But let's start with the fantasy mentality. How much of the blame for what happened yesterday, Vince, do you think is fair to place on Harden? When a team gets beat as badly as they did, we all understand there's blame to go around. Harden had an absolutely terrible game. Of that, there is no question. How much of the blame for what just happened to the Sixers do you think it's fair to place on him?
The harsh reality of being a go-to guy, a superstar, future Hall of Famer is this. When your performance is like this, you're going to get the blame. That's just the way it goes. And whether we like it or not, I mean, he could have had a rather decent game and still get the blame because it wasn't enough. And the same, I think, as much as James Harden is getting the blame, we still need to go to Joel Embiid, the MVP as well.
Yep.
So he's not on this island by himself, in my opinion. I feel like James Harden, also, it's just the moment, taking advantage of the moment. You know, you claim to be one of the best players. You are the best player, future Hall of Famer. Go be that. And you have a sidekick. This is in today's game. You have a sidekick. You have another guy. That wasn't the case many, many years ago, when you had to find a way to do it by yourself. So I think, as much as we say James Harden, you know, your performance, yes, it wasn't great, but I think that duo deserves to share both of that together.
Yeah, what do you think, Alan?
Well, if Joel Embiid is not being prepped for surgery today because of how bad that knee was and the fact that he was playing on it, if he's not being prepped for surgery right away, then he has to be first in line.
Okay.
And then after that, you can put Doc Rivers 2B, 2A and 2B with he and James Harden. But James Harden gave you 2 games in this series.
He did. Yeah. Yes, he did.
He got you 2 wins in the series, including an improbable Game 1 win that set you up to get this series up 3-2 because you won that Game 1. So I can't put the blame on him. You can find the mistakes, of course, and why are we shocked? Honestly, James Harden in a Game 7, the way he performed late in the series, this is so on brand for him and obviously for Philadelphia as well. So I wouldn't put him at the top of the list. I still think it's Joel Embiid.
I think that's fair. It is worth saying out loud again. They only won 3 games in this series, and he won 2 of them.
Yes.
So, I mean, take that for what it's worth. That said, his future will be much discussed, and so let's discuss it and bring Woj back into the conversation for that. Woj, back, I think it was on Christmas you first started reporting this with us on Countdown about the possibility, ultimately, of a Harden-Houston reunion. Where does all of that stand as of right now?
Yeah, Greeny, it was a real possibility back on Christmas, and it remains so now that the Sixers are in the offseason, that we're started to head toward July free agency. Philadelphia is a very real possibility, or Houston's a very real possibility for Philadelphia's James Harden in free agency. They've got, upwards of $60 million in cap space. They want to be much better next season. And listen, James Harden certainly pushed his way out of Houston when he felt he had reached the end of the line there as a contender, and got to Brooklyn with Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving. Obviously, that did not last long. Daryl Morey had always targeted to try to bring Harden to Philly. He got him there. And now, with free agency upon him, I think for the Sixers, they've got to decide how much they would want to invest long-term in James Harden at his age, where he's at. But there's a comfort level in Houston for James Harden. He's got family there. He's very comfortable in that environment. And this is an organization where he knows ownership. He knows the front office. And I think regardless for the Rockets of whether or not they won the draft lottery, if they win the lottery tomorrow night here in Chicago, and they're the ones who can draft Victor Wembanyama, My sense is that would not necessarily change the Rockets' intentions to pursue James Harden. So that's going to be the story here between now and July. And listen, it may ultimately just be a leverage play for James Harden. Houston may be his way to get him the kind of guaranteed money, long-term money he wants in Philly. But I wouldn't underestimate it as just a leverage play. I think he's very serious about returning. And Philadelphia now, they have strong relationships in that organization from Daryl Morey, starting with him in their front office. It's going to really be an interesting couple months.
Yeah, so let's put the things on the table. So Harden will be 34 when next season begins. Feels like he's been in the league forever, but that by today's standard is not that old of a player. Well, by your standard, it's ridiculous. He's a teenager as compared to Vince Carter's standard. And he did lead the league in assists this year, for whatever it's worth. I mean, he's such a confounding player to try and define, because there were so many. You see things and you say to yourself, there it is. I mean, that's what we're looking for, and you just don't get it every single day. And maybe that's true of a lot of players in the league right now. So you mentioned that there's Embiid and there's Harden, and then there's Doc Rivers. Let's get to him. There has been a lot of speculation about whether or not his job was on the line in this 7-game series. And yesterday, our Kendrick Perkins actually tweeted, if I'm Doc Rivers, I wouldn't even give them a chance to fire me. I'll just step down right after the game. A blind man can see this ain't on him. His 2 stars basically quit. Ooh. That's big perk. And that's the ugliest 4-letter word in sports. Don't let any other fool you. So I guess I will ask you, Vince Carter, again. I just asked you how much blame it's fair to put on Harden. How much blame for what didn't happen here do you think is fair to put on Doc?
And there again, as a coach, you're going to take some blame. Usually the coach takes the blame. I mean, adjustments more so than anything to blame. But I thought that he had his team prepared. Game 6, though, I just think crippled them, and they lost their focus. And you could see that fourth quarter leading on. So it's like the first quarter of Game 7 was crucial for the Sixers, because I thought they just came in and their spirit had left them already.
Right.
So what does Doc Rivers do? How do you motivate them?
If you think about it, the stench of how Game 6 ended wasn't present at the start of Game 7, which tells you the coach had them ready to play in that Game 7. It fell apart. The flagrant foul, which, again, unnecessary flailing of the hands by James Harden. Didn't have to do it, but he's always trying to draw fouls. Yeah. And things really turned at that point. But, for Doc, I mean, the history is certainly there for him. And I love Perk, because Perk got a ring because of Doc Rivers. And that's really the last time Doc Rivers won. That's his championship. He gets to the finals. A couple years later, loses to Kobe and the Lakers. But still, that run was him that was his greatest coaching achievements. And then since then, with the Clippers and now here with the Sixers, it's been nothing but pain of trying to get over the top. 5 straight losses in a Game 7, 9 straight losses. Is he right? In the opportunity to clinch.
Let me read it for you here very specifically. He has lost 10 times in Game 7s. That's twice as many as any other head coach in NBA history. He has lost 9 consecutive games in which his team had a chance to reach the conference final.
Yeah, that's significant when you're a coach, because that's the part that you're supposed to take the team over the top.
But here's the part that I get sometimes lost in, and then I'm going to get Woj quickly to finish it up here. What I sometimes get lost in with the coaches in the basketball is you've got Joel Embiid and you've got James Harden, and he's got Tyrese Maxey too, who many people, including me, think is actually the second best player on that team. Is it Doc's fault they don't get over the top? I mean, you got to put the players in the right positions to win, and then when they don't, you lead the horse to water. If the horse doesn't drink, is that the fault of the guy riding the horse? I mean, that's what I'm asking you here. He had them right where they needed to be.
He gave them the game plan, and they have to, they have to execute it. And as a coach, you have to find ways, unfortunately, to motivate your team to get that to translate.
Yeah.
And I also say, with what he had, he got the best out of that season.
You think he got all the juice out of this squeeze?
I do.
Because to me, the only thing that I would really go at Doc on is what you were talking about before when we were showing Joel Embiid open and not getting the ball.
Adjustments.
That's the time, not even an adjustment. Timeout. Sit him down.
Yeah.
See that guy? He's the MVP. Get him the ball. Like, that's the one thing you can criticize him about.
This is the end of
Yeah.
Game 6 with that. But I go back to what you said in that same conversation, Vince. No one had to tell that to Jason Kidd. No one had to tell that to Steve Nash. No one had to tell that to Mark Jackson. James Harden has been around the league forever. I'm not sure someone needs to have to tell him, get the ball to Joel Embiid. He's the best scorer in the league.
And to go with that, as a coach, when you're watching this offense and you're watching the adjustments, you have your playlist and your playbook, and go-to plays, and you know what works.
Yeah.
At that point, you call a play that he gets the ball, period. Or when he gets the rebound, you call that play where he starts the offense. And sometimes you whisper over and it's like, hey, go shoot the ball.
I got you.
Be selfish.
Let me get Woj back in with the final word on this, because here's another one, Woj. Again, I wish everyone got the chance to work with Woj like I do all the time, because I'll fire Doc yesterday. I'm sitting in the middle of the third quarter yesterday. That's it, Woj, get him out. That's my attitude. And Woj always brings. So what is the rational perspective on the future of Doc Rivers in Philadelphia, Woj?
Greeny, you talk to people in that locker room, in that organization, and I think something that is really underestimated is the job that Doc Rivers has done holding that organization together through the Ben Simmons saga, and then the arrival of James Harden and trying to broker a partnership with Harden and Joel Embiid. James Harden wanting to still play in a way he had played previously, but understanding this team is built around Embiid, and Harden may not be able to play with the ball in his hands all the time, and certainly doing as much scoring as he would like perhaps to do. And I think that is underestimated in this league, your ability as a head coach to coach players hard. He still coaches star players really hard. And you heard James Harden yesterday, kind of be lukewarm about his relationship with Doc Rivers. Doc Rivers coached James Harden hard. They had a lot of success together. Don't underestimate that in this league. And I think Doc Rivers deserves a lot of credit for that, because these have been a tumultuous through the Simmons period, the bringing on Harden. That was not easy to do.
No, I think that's 100% fair. I have to leave it there for the moment, but we have much more to say about all of this on this jam-packed day with this outstanding squad that we have put together, including coming up next. The King is looking for another ring. Can LeBron and AD carry the Lakers past the MVP and all the way to the NBA Finals? We're talking about it next. You're watching Get Up on ESPN.